The Montgomery County Black Collective and the State of Black Montgomery present the Black Agenda 2021. Event 1, The Power to Breathe, the importance of Black wellness and self-care.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Lori Ann Sales, council member from the city of Gaithersburg and past president of the Association of Black Democrats of Montgomery County, the creators of the annual State of Black Montgomery program. We want to welcome you to the Power to Breathe, the importance of Black wellness and self-care, our inaugural event that kicks off a virtual event series to improve the Black lives in Montgomery County. We are so pleased that so many of you chose to join us this Saturday morning, ready to receive some important information and insights that will comfort and encourage you. As you may know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, a very important observance that we as Black people need to pause and acknowledge. To say that the last year and a half have been overwhelming is an understatement. From fears of unemployment, revenue losses for our businesses, uncertainties of paying rent and mortgages, scrambling to manage the virtual education of our kids, to the anxieties of isolation, fear of contracting COVID-19, and grieving the loss of loved ones. It feels like an endless mental and emotional roller coaster ride that none of us wants or prepared to be on. The word choice for this first event, the power to breathe, were very intentional. The racial injustices we have either witnessed or experienced as Black people in the last 18 months, and truthfully for centuries, have been traumatic and have taken a toll, so much so that it often feels like it is difficult to breathe. While we did not have to experience the horror and degradation of dying with a knee on our neck, the pain, anger, and fear of hearing someone plead for their life because they couldn't breathe, witnessing the many other senseless murders and atrocities simply because of the color of one's skin, have taken unwelcomed space in our minds. To be alive in America, and even in this county, for many means waking up and living in a continuous cycle of the emotional turmoil, of being tired, afraid, frustrated, or in pain. So this morning, we want you to see this event as an opportunity to exhale, to take these 90 minutes to breathe, to understand the power of every breath you take. We want you to gain new insights and information from the incredible experts who will share tools and strategies to help boost your internal coping skills and build up your emotional immunity to stress. And it's okay to say that you're not okay right now. If today's discussions trigger anything for you, or you have wanted to talk to someone but didn't know where to go, we will periodically show the Montgomery County Crisis Center hotline information on the screen. They are available 24/7, 365 days a year to offer support. And to usher in a safe and healing space, we are fortunate to have Dr. Tanya Featherston, who is a psychologist and mind-body wellness coach and founder of Good Karma Enterprises, LLC with us. Dr. Featherston will help us center and set positive intentions for the day. Before she gets started, I want to share a couple of housekeeping rules. To our attendees, we want to hear from you. You can use the chat feature in YouTube to leave comments and questions for our panelists that you'll meet shortly. Members of our team will be monitoring the chat during our time together. And we ask that you maintain positive and encouraging discourse in the comments that you post. So let's get into it. Dr. Featherston, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I am happy to be here. Good morning, everyone. We want to start this journey today in talking about our mental and emotional wellness and our self care with just taking a moment to take 3 deep centering breaths to get us grounded and centered into this space. So, if you would just simply you can gently close your eyes. You can place one hand on your heart. It makes a great connection for you to connect both your mind, your body, and your spirit. And just take a long, slow, deep breath in through your nose, and we're going to exhale through our mouths. So, first time, long, slow, deep breath in and exhale. And this time, as you exhale, just let go of anything that you might be holding on to, any thoughts that you have of someplace else that you might think you should be today. You're in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time. One more time, long, slow, deep breath in. Hold it for a second and exhale. And one last time to get you really grounded and connected in the space. Long, slow, deep breath in. Hold it for a second and let it go. So, to really prepare us for this journey that we are about to embark on, what I thought we would do is to do a simple guided meditation together. One of the things that we could all use, we've learned over the last year, is a little bit more loving kindness. We needed to give ourselves a lot and continue to need to give ourselves a lot of loving kindness as we continue this journey that we're on. And we also need to extend that loving kindness to those that are around us in our families, as well as those throughout our communities and all people that we are connected with, but also those that we don't even know. And so in this meta loving kindness meditation, that's exactly what we're going to do. Is just extend ourselves as well as those around us a little bit of loving kindness. So if you would just get comfortable wherever you are, where however you're sitting, it doesn't really matter how you sit, just be comfortable in your seating. I want you to just gently let your eyes float closed if that's comfortable for you. Once again, put one hand across your heart or over your heart and take a long, slow, deep breath in and release. Now, this time, bring to mind yourself, the warm, kind, and loving person that you are. And just show yourself a little kindness and appreciation for being here today and for just showing up today for your self care and for your own personal wellness. You could have been anywhere today doing anything today, but you decided to show up to this event to find out more information about how you can keep yourself healthy and well. So just show yourself some appreciation for that. Now, just repeat after me. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with grace and ease. And just take a deep breath in and show yourself some love and kindness. And release. Now, I want you to bring to mind all of the people that are in your household, the people that may be closest around you right now in this moment, the loving and kind people that they are, the gentle people that they are. And just show some and spread some love and kindness to everyone that's there close to you and that's in your household. Repeat these words after me. May they be happy, may they be healthy, and may they live with grace and ease. Deep breath in and release. Now I want you to bring to mind all the people that are in your community, all the people throughout Montgomery County that you pass every day, that you might have some interaction with every day, those people in your community that you work with, go to church with, all of those wonderful and loving people that are there and that share this space with us each and every day. And I want you to send all of those people some love and kindness and repeat after me. May they be happy, may they be healthy, and may they live with grace and ease. A long, slow, deep breath in and release. And now you can gently let your eyes open. And just know that as we go throughout the day today and listening to all the speakers, just think about giving yourself that same love and kindness, that same grace and ease that you will need throughout this presentation today. And just be gentle with yourself and know that, again, you're in the right place at the right time and doing the right thing. Okay. Have a great day.
All right. Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Featherston, for that much needed and important setting of intention while we spend some time together here this morning for this short journey. Good morning. My name is Elijah Wheeler. I have the privilege of being the co-chair of the Montgomery County Black Collective and glad to be here with you all this morning. We're going to get right into it and start off with some really exciting conversation. I'm really excited to have our next guest join us this morning. We know how busy of a person he is. But I want to introduce to you all Dr. Travis Gales here. You all know him very well for the work that he's done in ensuring that we are safe during the course of the pandemic. Just some quick background about Dr. Gales. He's a native of Chase City, Virginia, and he graduated with a dual bachelor's in public policy and African American studies from Duke before receiving his PhD in health policy and community health from the University of Illinois. Dr. Gales, thank you for being here with us this morning. We're really excited to be able to engage with you in this conversation that we know is much needed and really important. How are you today?
Good morning. Thank you, Elijah, for the invitation, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you all. And I'm doing what as best as I can, like everybody else.
Certainly. Glad that you joined us for a few minutes here. We know how busy you are, Dr. Gales, so we're going to get right into it. Speaking of the pandemic specifically, Dr. Gales, with the understanding that this isn't relative solely to Montgomery County, when it comes to COVID-19 and how it disproportionately impacted the Black community in the way that it did, how bad, statistically speaking, did it get here for our Black community?
Well, looking from a COVID perspective, unfortunately, we saw COVID-related fatalities disproportionately hitting our Black community. I believe at one point, it was significantly higher fatality rate for the Black community versus everybody else. So we saw it in that. We also saw it when you looked at the zip codes where people lived from a geographic perspective in terms of which zip codes had the most cases and were hit the hardest. We disproportionately make up residents of those zip codes as well. And I think the most startling thing about the COVID-19 disparities and the disheartening thing is that many of those patterns that played out from a COVID perspective reminded us of the longstanding disparities that exist across a host of other health and social determinant conditions.
Thank you for that. That's surely important to this conversation. Kind of going ahead a little bit, considering where we're at currently with the nature of the pandemic, let's talk about the hesitation to be vaccinated. I know you're vaccinated, as am I. But do you think that we as a community were any more hesitant than other communities to get vaccinated or inoculated? If so, why do you think that is? And what actions did you take to mitigate some of those barriers to access for those who did want to get vaccinated?
I think early on there was some vaccine hesitancy, which was consistent with other communities as well. That's played out. There are a lot of folks, not just Black and Brown folks, who have some hesitancy about it, given the nature of the process and the expedited nature of the process. Unfortunately, I think when it came to our community, policymakers were quick to say, well, Black folk are hesitant to get it because of Tuskegee and because of history. While yes, that did inform, I think, everybody's thoughts around science and research, I think that dismissed folks' lived experience now that could drive some of that hesitancy, particularly, again, when you see the same disparities that we've heard about for decades play out in terms of COVID. When we look at cases, we look at fatalities, and certainly when we looked at the early numbers about who was getting access to the vaccine and the gaps that were present. And so I think there was initial opportunity that was missed to fully engage the Black community around what those true reasons were for hesitancy. And it missed an opportunity to look at the fact that a lot of Black folks did want the vaccine and have gotten the vaccine. And when we have removed barriers to getting access to the vaccine, folks have come out in droves to get it. And so I think we just have to be consistent in our message to address that, but also work to remove the barriers and obstacles that have impeded many from being able to get access to it.
Perfect. Thank you for that. If you don't mind, I'd like to center you just for a brief moment here. When this pandemic hit, and as we're still moving toward recovery from it, you've had to make some rather tough decisions in order to keep people as safe as possible. As a result, you faced a barrage of hateful, racist, and demeaning rhetoric via emails, online messaging in public forums, chat rooms, and other platforms. How have you managed to navigate that over the course of this past year? And what self-care practices have you embraced in order to get you through?
Well, self-care, I'll answer the self-care part first, because since you and I are friends, you know that I preach and I ask everybody what they're doing for self-care. I've tried to, stay up with my physical fitness. I play tennis, I work out, I do spin classes. I've tried to clean up how I eat because my health will be here after COVID. Staying connected with family and friends as much as possible, checking in on people, even if it's just a good morning text to be like, are you okay? Are you having a good day? How does your day look? And it's been hard because you're right. The challenge is what we've been tasked to do is to try to keep people healthy, keep them from getting COVID, and keep them alive. And unfortunately, throughout the pandemic, public health decisions have been politicized in a way that's very dangerous. And it's tough when you're trying to make decisions that are based upon the best information that you have, and people make that into a personal nature and a lot of personal attacks. But at the end of the day, consistency and transparency are what are important. And those are the principles that guided me when I was in clinical practice before jumping over to the government side of things, and have continued to guide the practices that we've put forth. And while we don't brag about things or look at measures to say we've been more successful than versus other communities, I am comforted by when we look at the data, particularly over the last 3 months or so, where our levels of community transmission have dropped significantly, in large part due to the policies we put into place. And also, I think the trust that our residents have in knowing that the advice we put out is transparent, is up to date as much as possible, and it's not put forward from a political lens.
Perfect. And somewhat along those lines, considering the updated information that the CDC has shared with us around unmasking of vaccinated folks in public and some of these other steps, how hopeful are you in this moment? And what steps can we as a community take to allow us to have the ability to engage one another in person in the ways that we did prior to the pandemic?
Well, I think the most important thing is when you look at the CDC guidelines, they are promoting safer practices for those who are fully vaccinated. So I think the biggest way to protect and be able to engage safely is to get vaccinated. So if you haven't been vaccinated and you're watching, we strongly encourage you. It's safe, it's efficacious, it's effective. And that's the biggest thing that you can do to protect yourself and your families. I do think moving forward, at least from my perspective, the guidance that we will provide is around being able to reopen safely and carefully, recognizing that we have asked people for the last 14 to 15 months to distance yourselves and to wear face coverings. We recognize that for many people, it is going to take some time before they feel more comfortable being able to go out in public without masks and interact in those closer ways. So it's a process. And we encourage folks, again, to take their time and still utilize the guidance that helps them feel most safe in terms of interacting with others and their family and outside of that. And I think the other side of it is that even when we get to higher levels of vaccination, in a post-COVID world, we still have a lot of work to deal with that is going to still cause a lot of issues. And, the trauma from the past 15 to 16 months of what folks have had to do to stay safe and healthy will continue to play out. The trauma of re-engagement and reconnecting, as you talked about, all of that will play out as well. So we still have a lot of work to do, and we're hopeful that people stay engaged to get through all of that.
Perfect. Thanks, Dr. Gales. Last question for you on a personal note. If you don't mind indulging us, what's the first thing you're going to do that you have not been able to do during the course of this pandemic when it's safe enough to do so?
Fly far away from here and go on a vacation. And, yes, travel has been my biggest vice for the last few years, and obviously not being able to do that. I will say, fortunately, because I've been vaccinated, I've been able to hug my family members and spend meaningful time with my family a few times over the last several months. So that would have been the first thing. And I certainly look forward to doing more of that. But no, I need a vacation somewhere far away that's off the grid, off email, off cell phone reception for a few days, maybe a few weeks.
Fair enough. Well, certainly, Dr. Gales, you've earned it. I want to thank you for joining us this morning and taking time out of your busy schedule to come and answer some of these questions and shed a little bit more light on the pandemic. And we hope that you continue to take care of yourself and practice those self-care things that we talked about earlier. Thank you for everything that you've done on behalf of the community to keep us safe, Dr. Gales.
Thank you all, and thank you all for the continued work you're doing to keep our communities uplifted and safe as well. And if I can be of any assistance in the future, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Will do. Thank you, Dr. Gales. Now on to Daniel Caroma, the Business Liaison Officer in the Office of the County Executive. He's going to moderate for us what we think is going to be an informative and encouraging panel discussion. Daniel, I'm going to throw it over to you now. So we're going to switch things up a little bit in the agenda. I think Daniel's having a little bit of a technical difficulty joining us right now. Dr. Valentine, are you here with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to you instead.
All right. Thank you, Elijah. I appreciate that. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Adrena Valentine, founder and CEO of Integrative Management Solutions, as well as a member of the Montgomery County Black Collective. I am honored to be in the position to introduce and speak to our panel today. But before that, Elijah, if I may, we do have a couple of questions for Dr. Gales, if he's available to continue to answer some questions. Dr. Gales, I have a question from Doug, who asks, why do we contract COVID after Moderna and Pfizer?
Dr. Valentine, Dr. Gales had a hard stop this morning.
He did, okay.
Yeah, so he had another engagement that he had to get to, so that's why he hopped off.
Okay, all right. Well, if we have our other panelists, we'll get started with them. All righty. I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking for.
It looks like Daniel is on. Forgive us, folks. This is the life of virtual technology. Daniel, are you with us now?
Yes, I am with you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Amazing. Well, again, I'm sorry for the technological glitch, but I'm in now, and thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you, everyone. Again, it's an honor for me to be here today. I'm Daniel Karoma, the Business Liaison Officer here in Montgomery County. I and our team provide business support services for small businesses in the county. So we are privileged today to be joined by an esteemed panel to really talk about some of the things that not only Dr. Gail and Elijah talked about, but also the things that are affecting the Black community here in Montgomery County. And so I hope all of you would listen keenly, but also I want to note that, as you've heard from Dr. Valentine, she will be monitoring the chat, so that if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and we'll ask our questions to the panelists. Again, esteemed panelists, let me just quickly do introductions. I know, again, time is against us, and I want to make sure we have enough time for the questions and answers. So I would like to, first of all, introduce Dr. Gregory Benjamin. Dr. Benjamin is a well-known health policy leader, practitioner, and administrator. He currently serves as the executive director of the American Public Health Association, the nation's oldest and largest organization of public health professionals. He's also a former Secretary of Health for the state of Maryland. He's board certified in internal medicine, has a master's degree from American College of Physicians, also a fellow at the National Academy of Public Administration, as a fellow emeritus of the American College of Emeritus Physicians, and a member of the National Academy of Medicine. He's also a former member of the National Infrastructural Advisory Council, which advises the president on how best to assure the security of the national critical infrastructure. So welcome, Dr. Benjamin.
Thank you.
And thank you. And our second panelist, I want you to meet Dr. Laura Hardgrove, who is a prolific speaker, teacher, preacher, and scholar. She serves as the interim pastor of Mount Calvary Baptist Church in Rockville, here in Montgomery County. She's the creator of the daily POP, that's Praying on Purpose, prayer calls, as well as the inspirational station on your YouTube channels. So Reverend Dr. Hardgrove's ministries goes beyond the walls of the local church. She lends her expertise to the work of equity and social justice issues, and has worked closely with the Samuel DeWitt Pratt Conference on many of these issues, both locally and globally. She's also the CEO and founder of Bocassi Ventures, LLC, a consulting group that navigates wellness in corporate, social, and individual spaces with a focus on health, culture, and spirituality. So please help me welcome Dr. Hardgrove.
Thank you, everyone, and good morning to each of you. I just want to make one correction. I am no longer the interim pastor of Mount Calvary Baptist Church. My focus is Bocassi Ventures, and I am delighted to be with you today.
Thank you, Dr. Hardgrove. And our next panelist is, Our next panelist is Dr. Sabrina Njai. She is she's a psychotherapist and founder of the Heart Nest Center of Peace and Healing in Baltimore, here in Maryland. She's a senior faculty member of the Center of Mind-Body Medicine, where she teaches the art of self-care to healthcare professionals around the globe. As center faculty, she has responded to community trauma in Las Vegas, Houston, the Pine Ridge Reservation, New York City, and Madrid, Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. She is currently serving the center as a teacher and guide for community leaders in Jordan, Central Asia, East Africa. She's currently completing her first book, The Laugh of Love, based on her, based on her motherly abilities to transcend multi-trauma and chronic illness. Please help me welcome Dr. Njai.
Grateful to be here.
Yeah. All right, and then our final panelist is Ms. Marcella Fulmore, and she wears two hats today. She's a licensed social worker that specialized in working with a diverse population of youth to support them in removing barriers that may hinder current and future success. She's the school social worker at John R. Lewis High School in Fairfax, Virginia, in Fairfax County, Virginia. As a school social worker, she provides individual and group counseling, work collaboratively with school staff, faculty, and the community. And she assesses and consults students in critical needs situations. In 2006, Ms. Fillmore developed a mental leadership program at Lewis called Powerful African American Male About Success, that focuses on closing the opportunity gap while providing a safe space for young men to express their opinion and ideas about about their place as African Americans in the academic setting and society. Now, remember, I said she wears two hats. In addition to all that she does supporting youth, she's also an avid fitness trainer who is committed to helping others transform their lives through fitness and wellness. Welcome, Ms. Fillmore.
Thank you.
Well, again, as we go into the questions that we receive, I'm going to start with Dr. Benjamin. Dr. Benjamin, how does racialized trauma present itself in the body physically? This is one of the questions that we received.
No, thank you very much. Obviously, that's an important question. Let me first by saying that there's a difference between race and racism. Just remind us that race is a social construct that does not have a biological basis. I say that's important because what you look like does not determine your health. But racism does, because it is certainly the concept of one group of people being superior to others and practicing that belief. So when people do that, it creates an extraordinary amount of stress on the human body. Not only does it affect our mental health, our well-being, but there are people that actually, when they're constantly told that they cannot do something or that they're inferior, they often believe it and therefore don't work to achieve their highest potential. So that's one place where it works, in addition to creating depression and in folks, but it also has a physiological impact. So stress causes a range of endocrinological changes in your body. It changes your hormones, and that can increase your blood pressure. Your blood pressure can cause heart disease, congestive heart failure, because your heart is pushing against this very, very high pressure. It can precipitate a heart attack. It can cause kidney disease. It can accelerate the diabetes and obesity. It's known to be a cause of a precipitation of infant mortality, meaning children who are born too small and die too soon. So racism not only has a mental health impact, but also a physiological impact on people. But it's not based on what we look like. It's based on how we're treated.
Wow, that is so amazing. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Benjamin. So let's go into emotional health. Dr. Njai, being Black in America often means waking up angry, tired, frustrated, or even afraid. What are some of the coping strategies and tips you suggest to achieving some kind of a balance, right, emotionally for us as Black people in America?
So some of the symptoms of racial oppression that Brother Dr. Benjamin just shared are also some of the quote unquote mental illnesses that I work with my clients around. And I say quote unquote because many of my clients that are coming to me for therapy, and actually this is applicable to people whether they're white or Black or anything in the middle, what I have found in my practice is that American racism has infiltrated every single last one of us, and it negatively impacts everybody's health. And certainly it negatively impacts the health of people who look like us even more so. So one of the first ways that I teach people in accessing or re-accessing their self-care is an understanding that everything that's happening to you is not necessarily your fault. And so how do we come together, client and therapist, human to human, and help you develop ways to care for yourself in the face of all that's coming at you. And so therapy is, first of all, a place to freely express every single emotion that you just listed, Daniel. To say, I am angry, I am sad, I am sorrowful, I am bereft, I need to cry. And to have a safe place to express that range of emotion is one of the many portals to us being healthy. So self-care is about safety, first of all. Have an emotion. And then when you have the freedom to have an emotion, and only when you have that freedom to have an emotion, can your blood pressure go down? You have that freedom to have that emotion, then you can think, and then you can breathe, and then you can make a decision around what your unique needs are for self-care.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, it makes perfect sense. Okay. And I this is so helpful because it's really speaking to, as I say, not only the body, mind, but now also the spirit. So let me transition to Dr. Hargrove. Dr. Hargrove, so the Black diaspora historically has sought comfort, care, and guidance from their religious leaders. How do you encourage or convince this diverse population to seek medical attention that may be more helpful than or complementary to the care that they receive from their places of worship?
Sure. Thank you, Daniel, for that question. And it is a power-packed question at that. You find that religious attention and worship, most people look to their houses of worship and their spiritual spaces to focus in on soul care. But the reality is you don't just bring your soul to a house of worship and to your spiritual space in a collective manner. You bring your soul, you bring your mind, you bring your whole self, you bring your spirit into that space. And so while we focus on the soul, you can't leave out those other pieces and parts. One of the things that has happened during COVID is that pastors themselves have found themselves in crisis. In crisis because you go into ministry for one thing, to help, to serve, to guide. And then through COVID, we have found that those that are in positions of leadership have now had to become the techno-savvy producers of their own services. And, you know, it has created a whole different level of need Because if those that are the practitioners are in crisis themselves, those that are leading need to focus on what they need to do in order to help congregants and to help parishioners navigate their space. And so one of the things that Bokasi Ventures does is life spirit navigation, because it includes the whole person, while for some the focus may be on the spirit. And how do you get people to move into those spaces? You yourself as the lead and practitioner need to make sure that you are in a healthy mind, body, and spirit space in order to do that, so that you are not moving forward in your brokenness and in a place of being unhealed, to encourage others to do the things that you yourself have not yet done. You know, the best way to lead is by example. And so when we consider the diasporic community that we find ourselves in Montgomery County, where there is a lot of overlap, we also have to be in a place of truth telling in whatever house of worship we find ourselves in. You know, a lot of times
Amen to that.
Say again.
I know, I said amen to that.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, amen. Yes. So, and Ashe to that as well, because it is truth and power. So in saying that, you know, you have to also be open to how people come into houses of worship and not try to put them in a cookie cutter mold of your particular religious affiliation. And we don't always do a good job telling the truth in church, telling the truth in our places of worship. We come in with coined phrases like, I'm too blessed to be stressed. That's a lie. You can be blessed and stressed at the same time.
Come on now.
You got to be able to deal with that and work through that, so that you can give people authentic space. And I think that's one of the keys in terms of what practitioners, spiritual practitioners, can do. I'm going to stop there.
Because we're about to shout in the entire place. You are talking about, things that we all relate to. Thank you so much for that.
Get your shout on. That's all right.
Thank you. Let's talk about physical fitness. Ms. Fillmore, given issues of work-life balance, what are the benefits of prioritizing physical activities and fitness into our daily lives?
Okay, so good morning again. So when we listen to all of the other clinicians who have already spoken and our spiritual advice, coming from the frame of mind of a social worker and looking at the holistic realm of a person, we're looking at mind, body, and spirit, as well as environmental. And physical fitness is when we ask Dr. Sabrina about coping skills. Physical fitness is just a way of coping. It's a way of releasing the toxins out of our bodies. So not just the things we ingest, but the things not the things we ingest orally because of what we're eating, but the things we ingest as we walk around day to day, taking on the stressors from our jobs, from being parents, from running businesses, from just the microaggressions that are put against us as Black Americans. And so as we move throughout our days and we are taking on more and more and more, that physical fitness, and it doesn't always have to be intense physical fitness. It can be just going outside for a walk, enjoying the air, allowing that sun to shine on your face, which lately I've been doing a lot of videos of just letting that sun shine on my face. That in itself is healing. That heals you enough to say, I can keep going on. I can keep going another day. And so people don't really understand until you get into it, what that time does for you. So I try to tell my clients, give yourself 20 to 45 minutes a day just for you. And I do feel like us as Black Americans, we just take on so much because we, for generations, have been taught to take on so much and taught to be better than the other person. And because we do that to ourselves, we inflict that on ourselves, if we're not giving ourselves that time to just heal ourselves emotionally and physically, we can't help other people. So you have to be available for yourself first to be able to give to other people. So that time of fitness is always my time. So even when I'm training other people, we're having a conversation, and my training sometimes is like therapy. I feel like my social work and my physical fitness mesh together really well. But then I have to cut off that screen and then go out and do my own thing, or get on a bike and just put on my own music. And sometimes when I'm out running, I'm just listening to a sermon, because that's my time of spiritual healing, time to give just a freedom to be me and to just release whatever is going on with inside of me. And that's what people need to do for themselves with physical fitness.
Well, thank you so much for that, Ms. Fillmore. And I think we may have time for one more round of questions, and then Dr. Valentine hopefully will have some few more questions to ask as well. So let me go back to Dr. Benjamin. Dr. Benjamin, racism has been declared a public health crisis. Being Black seems to be a hazardous to our health. When it comes to our health, what actions can Black people take to offset biases and desperate treatment in the healthcare system and beyond?
Well, I think the first thing we ought to do is understand ourselves. And I got to tell you, the people that helped me the most were my mom and dad, who told me that I could be anything I wanted to be. And with that in mind, I was shielded from those people that told me, well, you know, you probably couldn't do this, you probably couldn't do that. Because I believed my parents, I didn't believe them. I think the second thing that we do is just be comfortable in your own skin. You know, we all have skills and expertise, and we should work very hard to polish those up and understand that there will always be people out there who either because of hate or jealousy or other issues will seek you ill will. And you have to figure out, one of the things you learn in life is how to adjust to those and do many of the things that you've heard from these astounding women psychologists here on this call, to be resilient, to be comfortable, to think about every morning getting up and spending some me time, so that the challenges of the day, you can face them before you go out, or when you come home at night, you figure out how you can separate yourselves from those. And I think that but you have to do that with intention. Building that resiliency doesn't come easily. And of course, part of that is being as healthy as you can be, and following the good medical advice, and having friends, and not being isolated, and engaging with other people, and participating in the governance of ourselves as well as our communities, I think are all very, very important points. You know, public health recognizes that 80% of what makes you healthy occurs outside the doctor's office. So it's sound education, it's dealing with income inequality, it's having safe housing. So to the extent we can do those things in our communities and make our communities safer and more prosperous, we all will benefit from that.
Well, thank you so much for that. And with that, let me go to Dr. Njai. Dr. Njai, I have to actually combine these questions because both of them are so important, and I have to make sure you address both of them. So first of all, how do we know our mental health is in jeopardy, right? With all what we've just been through, right? How do we know? What are the signs we should be aware of? But then also, how do we know if a therapist is the right one for us? Because there are some times that we should look to, to identify someone who can really talk to us. So if you can please answer those two questions, that would really be helpful.
Yes, I love both of those questions. So to answer your first question, how do you know your mental health is possibly in jeopardy? If you get to live past the age of 7 as a human being, first of all.
Yeah.
And then as an African-American human being in this great country that we live in, that we have helped build, at some point in your life, you will experience a mental health crisis, because the mental, the physical, and the spiritual all work together in the creation of our health or the destruction of our health. So all of us are going to have an experience in our life in which we are in a crisis. COVID was a collective crisis. No one got through COVID without a moment of deep, deep sorrow. And many of us went through periods of depression in the face of COVID. There is nothing wrong or unusual about the experience. Some of the signs could include sorrow that doesn't lift, not being as excited about certain aspects of your being that you were once excited about, pulling away from friends, from family, from nature, from the people that we love, pulling away from activities that used to bring us joy. All of those things could be signs that our mental health is negatively impacted. But what I want to do for all of us is to normalize that. That is the reality. That is the human experience. That is the reality. So all of us at some point in our lives are going to need support. Every single last one of us. So
let's talk about how to identify the therapists that we could go to.
And I also want to honor that our American medical system that has been extremely racist, like Brother George said earlier, has also negatively impacted those of us that have sought mental health treatment. So we acknowledge that when people seek mental health treatment, all of us that are working in this field need to understand that many of us have had a negative experience. So when Black people tell me, oh, I don't want to go to therapy, I ask them, what does therapy mean? It means you're going to get in my head. What's going to happen when I get in your head? And why do I want to get in your head? I want you in your head. And I'm just providing a space for you to go into your head, to go into your heart. So I tell people, when you're looking for a therapist, understand that you are interviewing this potential person. And this person is going to enter into a very intimate relationship with you. And you have the right to choose whether that is the right person for you. And you want to find out whether they have love and passion for the work, first of all. You want to know whether they know what it means to have survived any sort of trauma, because Black people have a baseline trauma. You want to know what they know about your experience. You want to feel that they can hold you in every single face that you're going to reveal to them, because that's really important. You want to ask questions, and literally, like all of us that have survived all these generations, we have strong instincts. Listen to your gut when it tells you whether this person is safe. Don't just listen to the referral that you got from someone else. How do you feel in the presence of this person? Does hope rise in your being, in their presence? Then there's a possibility that you can work together. And I tell people it's an experiment. You have the right to actually fire your therapist if you don't feel love.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. Love, absolutely. There's no degree for love. You got to feel that first. Then listen to all the acronyms after that person's name. That's where you start.
Absolutely. Well, let me go to Dr. Hargrove.
Sure.
So, Dr. Hargrove, how do we mobilize and support the Black faith community in raising awareness about the importance of the vaccine and dismantle some of the myths and fears that are out there right now?
Thank you for that question as well. I think one of the things that most of us, I believe, are aware of is that traditionally and historically, the Black church has been the space not just for spiritual wellness, but it's been the space for information as well as inspiration. And continuing in that tradition, you know, when we talk about the vaccine, one of the things that people need to know, especially if they have concerns, especially if they are holding on to what may be a myth, is to bring it to the church and to allow people first and foremost to express where they are without judgment. And that may sound like an easy thing to do in a church or in a house of worship, but unfortunately and ironically, many times the church is, or the house of worship that we align ourselves with, can be some of the most judgmental spaces that we find ourselves in. And so we are in a dichotomy, if you will, and a struggle and a tension between those things. And again, I go back to those practitioners that are leading the way. When you open up a house of worship, you bring in those individuals that can, like we have today, we have multiple individuals from different disciplines that can speak to different parts of it. Some of the things that people have issues with where the vaccine is concerned are related to some issues that they need to work out in therapy. And that needs to be acknowledged. Some of them, it's literally misinformation about what the vaccine will do, because they are drawing on past negative experiences that our community has had. And you need to bring people in that look like us to disseminate the information so that there is a lowering of anxiety along with opening the door for people to get the information that they need. And then, and here's the piece, if after hearing the information, because sometimes making a decision to take a vaccine is a longer process than one might think, because you're funneling it through the mind, the body, the spirit, all of the things that are converging in you. And you have to be able, we have to be able as a community to understand that if after bringing people together to disseminate information, and you still have members of your houses of worship that are still on the fence about the vaccine, you need to support them in that place. You need to understand that there may be other extenuating factors that are present in terms of their decision to be vaccinated or not to be vaccinated. And the other flip side of this, and I'm speaking to, when I'm talking about communities of worship, houses of worship, I'm speaking to all facets. So I don't want anybody to be offended by what I'm about to say, but we also have to recognize as leaders in houses of worship that our words matter. And so when you are purporting an alternate reality around the vaccine that we saw very early on in the pandemic with, well, God is going to protect me, so therefore I don't need to, and you can fill in the blank. Okay, there's a very thin line between faith and foolishness. And unfortunately,
hold on now. Can you say that again? Can you say that again, please?
I will hashtag that thing for you. There is a very thin line between faith and foolishness. And when we start functioning in a hyper spiritualized mindset and begin to say things like, you know, well, I trust God, so therefore I don't need to get the vaccine. I'm going to hold back my opinions on that, because my mouth can be potty every now and again, and I don't want to slip up on this very important call to say something crazy and have y'all be like, okay, we ain't even dealing with Dr. Lowe anymore. But in that, you know, there have been pastors who have led their parishioners down the road literally of death because of saying stuff like that. You know what? Yeah, God can protect you, but you know, the word also says, do not tempt the Lord thy God. So you need to be able to understand that God gives us the medical community, God gives us therapists, God gives us people who have got the ability to help you navigate your spaces. And we need to be open to that in order to help people understand the importance of vaccination and support them where they are. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much for that. That is so succinct. That is so important. With the about a minute that we have left, let me go to Ms. Fillmore. Ms. Fillmore, based on the work, your work with our young people, given the increase in suicide rates, depression, and anxiety among youth, how do we let them know that therapy is not negative and it's not only for adults?
Okay, so first of all, when a student walks through my door, every student that walks through my door, I feel like they're there for a reason. So they've come to see me for a reason, but God has put them in my space for a reason. So I start to work with them and build a rapport, just trying to figure out who they are. Once we're connected, it's a little bit easier for me to help them explain why they may need more than what the school system should be providing. So although I'm trained like a clinical therapist, in the school system, we're not supposed to do therapy. So I have students that see me on a weekly basis, although we're not providing therapy. And sometimes they say, well, I don't want to go see anyone. I want to just keep talking to you. And I say, well, at least if you're going outside, you can have us working together, because now they can work with you and your parent a little bit more. And then I can work with you in school, and we can all work in conjunction to make sure your health is stable. What I also try to do, and what I feel a lot of my minority, the other clinicians in my school that are of Latinx or Black, what we try to do when we're connecting students is we try to look for therapists that look like them. Okay. We try now, it's not always though that a therapist that looks like you is the therapist for you. So you do have to, like was said before, make sure you're interviewing that person, make sure that is the person that you are going to feel the connection with. So I say, sometimes you go and you say, well, it didn't work. Well, it didn't work because maybe that wasn't the person that was supposed to be in your life at that time. So, but the main thing is I try to help them see that it's an impartial person who is going to be able to listen to you. You're going to be able to share whatever you need to with them. And for the most part, unless you want to hurt yourself or someone has harmed you, they don't have to share it. And it's the same thing in my office. I also, believe it or not, the first step is a lot of times in the Black community is getting the parents to understand the importance of therapy, not the student. The student is ready to go. It's the parent and the follow through from the parent. So a lot of times we have to explain to the parent, therapy is no different than if the doctor told you your child had cancer, what would you do? Would you say, I'm not going to get them chemo? No, you would be running to the doctor to save their lives. If they're dealing with depression, anxiety, that is something they have no control over. You can't control how their brain is functioning and how they're funneling in messages at this point. So that therapist can help them work through. It's just the same as that chemotherapy treatment. A lot of times when we talk to parents like that, it clicks and they're like, okay. The other thing I try to tell parents is when you don't get the support they need, especially when we see it at a younger age, middle school, lower high school, like 9th grade, those kids end up turning to their own devices. And a lot of times those own devices are drugs or hanging with friends and doing things they shouldn't be doing. So instead of having them self-medicate, let's get them therapy and possibly medication. Medication is not mandatory. We can't mandate that. But if that's what the doctor recommends, maybe try it. But we do talk to them about what works for their family and how can we get you connected. And I always say, if that's not the person for you that I referred you to, come back to me and let's go back to the drawing board. But again, we do get a lot of people to connect once we try to really explain and work with them about how important it is. And as Black people, we're living in a constant state of trauma. Our lives every day are traumatic. And again, from generation to generation, that trauma continues. So we all probably need some form of therapy at some points in our lives. So it's important that we do take that step to start normalizing therapists, that we are not crazy, quote crazy, because we see a therapist. It's just something that we need, just like when we go for our yearly physicals, our 6-month dental checkups, and things of that nature.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. And we probably may have maybe time for only 1 or 2 questions on the chat from our attendees. So Dr. Valentine, I know you're still there, who is a member, of course, of the Black Collective and the founder and CEO of Integrative Management Solutions, LLC. Dr. Valentine, I'm going to toss it over to you and see if there are 1 or 2 questions from our audience.
Thank you, Daniel. And yes, we unfortunately only have a time for a couple of questions. The panel was so great. We did not want to stop all the good information that was coming in from them. Dr. Hargrove almost had me thinking I was in church, but I appreciate that because we can always use a thank you, Jesus, every once in a while. What is foremost on a lot of our attendees' mind is COVID. And so if I could, Dr. Benjamin, if I can have you to answer a question that came in from Doug, and is actually 2 pretty good questions. One, why do some people contract COVID after getting their vaccines? He said, we didn't contract polio or measles after getting vaccines. That's one. And if a quick follow-up is making sure folks understand whether or not they need to go get a flu vaccine.
Yeah, well, let me start with the flu shot because that's the easy one. The answer is yes. You still need to get your annual flu shot, and so this fall it will be very, very important for everyone to get a flu shot. That virus changes every year, and so every year we need a new vaccination. This vaccine does 2 things. The COVID vaccine. The first thing is it teaches your body how to basically destroy the virus should you get infected. And that does very, very efficiently. Nothing is 100% in medicine, but its ability to keep you from getting very sick and dying is pretty close to that. So far, it's demonstrated high efficacy in doing that. But the second thing that a vaccine does is it prevents you from, or reduces your risk, is a better way to put it, from getting infected or passing that virus on to other people so that you transmit the virus to others. And it is not as efficient as it is from keeping you from getting real sick and dying. It's pretty good though, and remember we were telling people to wear masks after getting fully vaccinated is the key word, after being fully vaccinated. And that was because we weren't sure how well it protected us from getting infected even after we were vaccinated or transmitting that infection to others. But now there's been a lot of studies that have shown that it's pretty good at that as well. So the fact that we now have half the population over the age of 12 vaccinated, at least with 1 vaccine, at least 1 shot, and over 40% people fully vaccinated, we now know that we don't have to wear masks in certain situations. And the purpose of that mask is to prevent us from either getting infected, even if vaccinated, or transmitting that vaccine, that infection to other people while vaccinated. So what I'm saying is that while it's highly effective in preventing you from getting real sick and dying, it's still very effective in keeping you from getting other people sick, but not anywhere near 100%. And people often ask, so how do I protect my kids? And the answer for that is get vaccinated.
Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. Unfortunately, we do not have time for more questions, but I can tell you, Dr. Hargrove, Dr. Njai, and Ms. Fulmore, the information that you guys relayed to our audience has generated a great deal of many of questions, and we have acknowledged that, so much so that our planning committee will consider launching a part 2, because when it comes to our mental health, when it comes to our spiritual health, and when it comes to our fitness, that's something that we have heard this morning that we should not ignore. And so we appreciate you being with us. And for now, I'll turn the program over to Lorianne. Thank you so much to our panels, and thank you, Daniel. Lorianne, are you still with us?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Lorianne might be on mute.
So Dr. Valentine, Daniel, thank you. To our panelists, thank you for your time, your expertise, and for your commitment to transforming what health and wellness look like in the Black community. Now, we're going to bring back Dr. Featherston to have a very brief 2-minute interlude, and she will lead us in a brief meditation to center our hearts and minds. For those who would like to get up and stretch, take a bio break, please do so now and join us to learn what's ahead for the collective and how you can get involved. Dr. Featherston.
Thank you. So just to get us a little bit energized after that, instead of a meditation, we're just going to do some more energizing breathing. So what you can do is just rub your hands together. We want to give ourselves an opportunity to, again, get a little bit more energized, to take a little bit of a break from all the wonderful information that we just received. And then as you start to feel that energy warm up in your hands, feeling your chi getting moving, which is just your life force and your energy, then just briefly take your hands, cup them over, and take a deep breath. And then exhale one more time, rubbing them together vigorously. Breathe in and exhale. And one last time. Breathe them together. Cup them over your nose. Breathe in and exhale. All right, and then our last one really quickly is just sometimes when you're on Zoom and you're doing these different things, and you know how you can get Zoom fatigue for sure. I'm sure we've all experienced that 1,000 times by now. Shaking again, and you're getting your energy moving and flowing again so that our brains can stay connected, because sometimes we drift off during all of these things. And we want to stay focused, and we want to stay connected to what's happening in this session. So just again, just shake a little bit. You can shake off to the side, however you're sitting, but you're just getting yourself moving, getting yourself re-energized a little bit as we take our little break and our interlude to get ready for the second session. So again, now just roll your shoulders back a little bit. We're going to take one last deep breath in to sort of refocus ourselves. Deep breath in and let it go. All right, we should be refocused and ready to continue on with our journey.
Dr. Featherstone, thank you for centering us once again. Much appreciated. The power of breath and taking these important meditative moments is key. Good morning, everyone. I am Michelle Taylor, co-chair of the Montgomery County Black Collective and also the CEO of Beta Associates. Today's discussion truly does confirm my resolve and reason for being a part of this critical transformation effort in the county's Black community. And I really hope you will consider joining us as we go forward. So I know many of you are wondering what the Black Collective is and what does it do? In full transparency and just to provide context, last fall, a small group of Black CEOs, nonprofit executive directors, and community leaders met frequently to discuss the inequities in grant funding and contract awards that were being made to Black-led nonprofits and businesses who are really working to affect changes within our community. It all started with an email announcing grant awards made to organizations throughout the state. And would you believe that out of the 30 plus organizations, none were Black-led? So as we compared our notes and we shared our experiences, we agreed that it really was time to foster unity and address the challenges that have been prevalent for years. Really, despite the dedicated efforts of Black-led nonprofits and businesses addressing the disparities in our community, from health and education to business and economic development, many aren't receiving the funding and contract awards that other communities should receive, that other communities are receiving. But yet and still, we're continuing to make an impact while we're struggling to survive. Many don't have the infrastructures, the grant writers, or the time to network or receive invitations to the tables where the funding opportunities and policies decisions are really happening. So hence, the Montgomery County Black Collective was born. We truly believe that we're stronger together if we all join from the different sectors: business, nonprofit, faith communities, civic organizations, and beyond. And to be honest, this effort really is in a nascent stage. We are really trying to figure it out, and we need your thought leadership, your ideas, and your passions. Based on what we've witnessed and experienced over the last year and a half, from the devastation of COVID to the racial injustices, there truly is an urgency to collaborate, to connect, and affect change. And truthfully, no other group is going to do it for us. And please, please be clear when you leave this meeting, we are not dismissing the impactful work that individuals, our historical civic organizations, fraternities, sororities, churches, and mosques are already doing. We're proposing that we come together to build capacity jointly and share our expertise and our resources wherever possible. We must develop a cohesive communal strategy and plan if we're going to turn things around. So I'm going to take my CEO hat off for just a second and keep it real. If the traumas of 2020 and these first few months of 2021 haven't been indications of the need for unification as a community, I really don't know what else we need. And I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to state the obvious that we talk about in smaller circles, but we haven't truly been able to figure out how to effectively address. There is fragmentation in the Black community by income, geography, age, and where we came from in the diaspora. In many cases, we have allowed these differences to divide us. And the fragmentation has led to confusion regarding where organizations the county should fund, which organizations the county should fund, and what policies need to be changed to address our specific issues and needs. Now we see it, that our other brothers and sisters in other communities have figured it out. They've made significant strides, they've received contracts and grants and informed policy changes in ways that we really haven't. And they have made they may have serious differences, but when it comes to securing the dollars and the policies needed to support their people, they lay those differences down and they get it done. We've got to come together. Let's stop grinding in these silos alone. Let's stop posturing with inflated egos and get to it. There are enough slices in the county funding and corporate give back pies to go around. So with that, I'm gonna put my CEO hat back on. The goals of the collective and what we hope to achieve are to define the spectrum of the county's Black community and present a comprehensive assessment of the current state of our residents. We plan to address the prevailing disparities by using data and documentation to influence the county government's commitment to equity. And we're going to set an agenda that ensures an equitable distribution of resources and full inclusion in the policies that will improve and sustain all Black lives. Most of all, we're going to take action. We're going to develop an actionable accountability plan with priorities, milestones, and metrics to monitor the transformation of our health, education, and economic conditions. So the first action that we've taken as a collective is to launch, in collaboration with the State of Black Montgomery, the Black Agenda 2021. This is a 4-part virtual event series designed to mobilize the necessary and urgent transformation of our community. These solution-focused events will amplify our voices, foster collaboration, connection, and cohesion around health, wealth, education, and social justice issues. So at the end of this event series, our ultimate goal is that we're going to have an actionable plan, which will truly become the Black Agenda 2021. And this is going to drive advocacy and funding reform efforts. Now, as an example of what we plan to accomplish, today's discussions have stressed the urgency for more support and access to quality mental health and wellness resources for our Black residents. We've drafted these priorities and asks for inclusion in our presentation to our elected officials, funders, and business leaders. This will occur in an event on June 24th. So these are some of the things that we believe are imperative to include. We'd like to see availability of 24-hour testing and vaccine sites. We'd like to see call center support for seniors or hard to reach populations. We'd like the establishment of accessible mobile testing and vaccine sites. We want financial support to promote and encourage access to mental wellness resources. And we'd also like the exploration of subsidies for mental health and wellness co-pays for those with limited to no health insurance. Now, these were just initial thoughts that we compiled, and we certainly welcome more input and ideas as we go forward, which now leads to the real critical question. So what's next? Today's event really was meant to serve as a healing space, a time to breathe, and a time to affirm that you really are not alone. But it really should not stop here. This is just the beginning. We have to work to do what we need to do, and we want to have your participation, your voices, and your ideas. So we want you to mark your calendars for our subsequent virtual events. The time is now, which is occurring on June 5th. We are here on June 24th and charting our course forward on July 14th. And I'm actually truly excited that today we actually launched the collective's website. So if you go to mocoblackcollective.org, you will see the official launch of our website. And when you visit there, if you click on the events page, you'll be able to learn more about these sessions, and you'll also be able to register. If you are having challenges, I just would ask that you would maybe visit a little bit later. There may be a few technical glitches, but just bear with us. This is a work in progress. Now, given the importance of this transformational effort, we really hope that you will plan to participate in these meaningful dialogues. We want you to bring your passion, your expertise, and your talents. And if you'd like to join the collective and be a partner and participate in the planning of these gatherings and beyond, we'd ask that you send an email to info@mocoblackcollective.org. Help us spread the word. We've launched our Twitter and our Instagram social media channels, and we're going to have a Facebook presence very soon. So with that, that was a lot of information that I just shared. Now, as we prepare to close, I'd like to welcome Ms. Princessakia Thompson, who is the founder of Royalty Yoga LLC, to offer a closing meditation to center us and to really help us set positive intentions for the day and for the rest of our weekend. Ms. Thompson, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you for having me. So I would first like to just begin with setting my intention. My intention is to help all ages develop a self-care technique through breathing, meditation, yoga, and dieting. So what I have here is my singing bowls, and I'm going to show you all how to breathe, because we don't realize that we're actually over breathing at times. So first, I want us to put our hands on our stomach. And for 30 seconds, I just want you to count how many breaths you take in 30 seconds. And I'll tap the bell when we're done. So for 30 seconds, just close your eyes, put your hand on your stomach, and count how many breaths you take. So in 1 minute, you should take anywhere between 10 to 12 breaths. So in 30 seconds, you should have taken no more than 4 to 6 breaths. So if you took 10 breaths, you're actually hyperventilating sitting here watching this video. So I want you to practice on taking deep, calm breaths. And a lot of us tend to breathe with our chest and our accessory muscles, which is from the trauma that we experience in life. But when you think about how a baby breathes, a newborn baby, you see the stomach, as they inhale, you see the stomach rise. And as they exhale, you see their stomach collapse. And that's how we should breathe. So I want everybody to take 3 breaths. So as you inhale, push your stomach out. And as you exhale, pull your stomach in. So inhale, push your stomach out. Exhale, pull your stomach in. And so I'm going to teach you what is called calming breath. So in calming breath, we're going to take an inhale for 3 seconds, and you're going to pause, holding it for 2. And then you're going to exhale for a count of 5, and you're going to hold it for 2. So I'm going to count you through it, and then I'll play the bells. And I want you to do the same breathing. I kind of want you to just relax, let go of all your stresses, and just focus on your breathing. So everybody take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth and let it out. Breathe in. Open your mouth and let it out. Last one, breathe in. Open your mouth and let it out. Now I'm going to count for you. Inhale, 2, 3, hold it, 1, 2, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold it, 1, 2, breathe in, 2, 3, hold it, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold it. Keep going. I'm gonna play the bell as you continue the breathing. So I would like everyone to know that life is not based on the number of days we take, but it's the amount of breaths that you take within the moments of life. So I leave with you. I hope that you practice the calming breath, not just when you sit and meditate, but through your day, focus on calming breath. When you go into your doctor's appointments, before you get your blood pressure, tell your doctor, I need 5 calming breaths, and let them check you, and then let them check it afterwards. So thank you all again for having me. And that's it.
Thank you, Princess Akia Thompson. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the close of our first event in this 4-part series. Before we go, on behalf of the collective and the state of Black Montgomery, I'd like to give a tremendous thank you to Dr. Gales, our panelists, Dr. Benjamin, Reverend Dr. Hargrove, Dr. Ndaye, and Ms. Fulmore, and Dr. Featherston and Ms. Thomas for centering us. We truly appreciate the time you've taken out of your Saturday to come and share your time and expertise with us. To our attendees, if you'd like to reach out to our panelists, we have compiled a list with their contact information, along with a few other resources you can refer to if needed. You can download it by visiting the collective's website. Please note, the information on the screen does not have Dr. Featherston's or Princess's information. However, it is on the resource sheet that you can access from the collective's website. We'd also like to thank our sponsors who contributed financial and in-kind services to make this event series happen. Beta Associates, the Nonprofit Village, and Sandy Spring Bank. We'd like to give a special thank you to the Beta Associates team for their marketing, design, and virtual event management support. And thank you to all of the individuals on the planning committee who contributed their time, talent, and treasure to ensure the success of this important first event. And a big thank you to our community media provider, Montgomery Community Media, and their production team. And to all of you, thank you for joining us. We hope that you were informed, encouraged, and inspired to stay connected with us. Now is the time. We are here, and we must maintain a forward focus towards a more promising future. We look forward to seeing you at our next event on June 5th, which will be very interactive. And now let us practice self-care and get out there and enjoy this beautiful day safely. So this isn't goodbye. Instead, we hope to see you soon. Thank you.